The underground vault was cold and dark. Admiral Yuna stood alone before the memorial wall, a massive black stone that reached up into the shadows above. 8 billion names were carved into that stone. 8 billion humans who died when Earth burned 60,000 years ago. Yuna was 67 years old. Her hair was gray, her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She had commanded the Hidden Fleet for 40 years. Her mother commanded it before her, and her grandmother before that. For 300 generations, her family had kept humanity's last hope alive in the darkness between stars. She touched the wall. The stone was cold under her fingers. Somewhere on this wall was the name of her ancestor who escaped Earth on one of the 17 colony ships. A young woman named Yuna, just like her. The family had kept the name alive for 60,000 years. Tomorrow. Oh, a voice came from behind her. Yuna turned. Hannah stood in the doorway, her tablet glowing in the dim light. Hannah was young, only 29, but she was the best intelligence officer in the fleet. She had grown up on stories of Earth. She had memorized every image, every video, every piece of data that survived the burning. And she hated the Velker with a fire that never went cold. "What is it?" Yuna asked. "They found us." Hannah's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. Deep space sensors detected a Velker scout near Colony 7. They know we're out here. Yuna closed her eyes. For 60,000 years, humanity had hidden. They had built their colonies in places no one would look. Inside nebulae, around dying stars, on frozen moons at the edge of the galaxy. They had watched the Velker grow into an empire that controlled 40% of known space. They had studied every species, learned every weakness, and waited. "The waiting was over," called the council, Yuna said. "All worlds. Emergency session." 1 hour later, Yuna stood in the center of the council chamber. The room was filled with floating holographic images of leaders from every human world. Some were old, some were young, some led millions, others led only thousands. But they all shared the same blood, the blood of survivors. "You all know why I called you here," Yuna said. "The Velker have found one of our outer colonies. Within a year, maybe less, they will find more. We cannot hide anymore." "Then we run again," said a voice. It was Counselor Park from the farming world of Greenhaven. "Ah, we have done it before. We can go further out, find new places to hide." "For how long?" Yuna asked. "Another 1,000 years? Another 10,000? The galaxy is getting smaller. They are spreading everywhere. Eventually, there will be nowhere left to run." "Then what do you suggest?" Park asked. Yuna looked around the room. Every eye was on her. "I suggest we stop running. I suggest we fight." Silence filled the chamber. No one spoke for a long moment. Then a very old voice broke the silence. "She is right." Everyone turned to look at Elder Jisoo. He was the oldest human alive. 412 years old, kept alive by technology that could extend life almost forever. But he had refused more treatments. He said he was tired. He said he wanted to rest, but not yet. Not until this was finished. "I was a child when Earth burned," Jisoo said. His voice was weak, but his words were strong. "I remember the sky turning red. I remember my mother carrying me to the ship. I remember looking back and seeing our world die." Paused. "I have lived 400 years with that memory. Every human alive carries that memory in their blood. And I say it is time to stop hiding. It is time to make them remember what they did to us." The vote was held. Every world, every colony, every ship. The result was unanimous. Humanity would go to war. After the council ended, Yuna walked to the deepest part of the vault. Jisoo walked beside her, his steps slow but steady. They stopped before a door that had not been opened in 60,000 years. "Are you sure about this?" Yuna asked. I've been waiting my whole life for this moment," Jisoo said. He pressed his hand against the scanner. The door recognized his genetic code. The code of someone who had been born on Earth. The locks clicked open. Inside the room was a single console. On the screen were 2 words, Project Vengeance. "Our ancestors started this before they even left Earth," Gisu said. They knew that someday we would need it. They spent their whole lives building the foundation. Their children continued the work, and their children after them. For 60,000 years, we have been preparing for this war. What is it? Yuna asked. Gisu smiled. It was a sad smile full of memory and pain and hope. Everything we need to win. He activated the console. Files began to open. Weapon designs. Ship blueprints. Battle strategies. Information about every species in the Velker Dominion. Their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears. Yuna stared at the screen. We have been watching them all this time, yes, Gisu said. We sent probes to every corner of the galaxy. Microscopic machines that no one could detect. We hacked their networks. We learned their secrets. We studied them like they were insects under glass. He turned to look at her. The Velker think they killed us. They think humans are just a memory, a footnote in their history. They have no idea what is coming. Yuna felt something rise in her chest. It was not anger. It was not hatred. It was something older and deeper. It was the feeling of 60,000 years of patience finally coming to an end. How long until we are ready? She asked. The first fleet can launch within 6 months, Gisu said. We have been building ships in secret for centuries. We have weapons they have never seen. We have soldiers who have trained their whole lives for this moment. Una nodded. She looked at the names on the screen. Weapons with names like the Silence, Ghost Protocol, Memory Strike. Each one designed to exploit a specific weakness in the Dominion's defenses. They burned our world, she said quietly. They killed our people. They forgot we ever existed. She turned to Gisu. Now we will remind them. Gisu reached out and touched her shoulder. His hand was thin and weak, but his grip was strong. I will not live to see the end of this war, he said, but I will die knowing it has begun. That is enough for me. I covered his hand with her own. We will win, she said. For Earth, for everyone we lost. For the 60,000 years we've spent in the dark. She looked at the memorial wall one last time. 8 billion names. 8 billion reasons to fight. The war had begun. Taiho had never seen anything so beautiful and so terrible at the same time. He stood on the observation deck of Forge World 7, looking down at the shipyard below. The shipyard was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, hidden in a part of space so empty that no one had visited it in a million years. Below him, thousands of workers moved like ants, building the skeleton of a warship that would change the galaxy forever. Taiho was 34 years old. He was the chief engineer of the Hidden Fleet, the smartest person in his field. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. But now that it was here, he felt something heavy in his chest. These were not just ships. They were instruments of death, and he had designed them, having second thoughts. A voice asked. He turned. Hannah stood behind him, her arms crossed, her eyes watching him carefully. No, Taiho said. Just thinking about what we are building. We are building justice, Hannah said. We are building revenge. We are building the thing that will make them pay for what they did. Taiho nodded slowly. I know, but sometimes I wonder if we are building something else too. Something that might change us into the thing we hate. Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she walked over to stand beside him. My grandmother's grandmother was from a city called Seoul, she said. It was on Earth, in a country called Korea. I have seen pictures of it. Beautiful mountains, rivers that sparkled in the sun, millions of people living their lives, falling in love, raising children, dreaming about the future. She paused. The Velker burned it all in less than an hour. They did not even know the name of the city they destroyed. To them, it was just another target. Taiho looked at her. I am sorry. Do not be sorry, Hannah said. Be ready. We do not have time for doubt. We only have time to win. The next day, Taiho led Admiral Yuna on a tour of the weapons facility. The facility was deep underground, protected by layers of rock and metal and energy shields. Inside were the tools of war that humanity had spent 60,000 years creating. This is the Silence, Taiho said, pointing to a cylinder filled with glowing liquid. The Velker use living ships. Their vessels are biological organisms that bond with their pilots through a neural link. This weapon contains a virus that severs that link. When we release it, their ships become dead husks floating in space. The pilots will survive, but they will be helpless. Yuna studied the cylinder. How fast does it work? Almost instantly, Tai-Ho said. One ship can infect an entire fleet within minutes. They moved to the next section. Here there were rows of machines that looked like satellites. These are for the Keth Collective, Tai-Ho explained. The Keth are a hive mind. Every member of their species is connected to every other member through a mental link. They share thoughts, memories, emotions. It makes them very powerful, but it is also their weakness. He pointed to the machines. These signal disruptors can cut individual Keth off from the collective. When that happens, they experience complete isolation for the first time in their lives. Most of them go insane within hours. Yuna frowned. That seems cruel. The Keth conquered 50 worlds for the Dominion, Tai-Ho said. They helped burn Earth. They felt nothing when 8 billion humans died. His voice was hard. I do not feel sorry for them, Tor continued. Tai-Ho showed her weapons for every species in the Dominion. Psychological attacks for the honor-obsessed Torak. Economic disruption tools for the merchant species. Propaganda systems that could turn populations against their rulers. We have been watching them for 60,000 years, Tai-Ho said. We know everything about them. Every strength. Every weakness. Every fear. And we have built a weapon to exploit each one. At the end of the tour, they reached a sealed door. Tai-Ho hesitated. What is behind there? Yuna asked. Something I hope we never have to use, Tai-Ho said. He opened the door. Inside was a single device. It was small, no bigger than a person, but it pulsed with energy that made the air feel heavy. A fold space bomb, Tai-Ho said. It can create a tear in the fabric of space itself. When it detonates, it destroys everything within light years. Stars, planets, everything. Yuna stared at the device. You've built a weapon that can destroy solar systems. I did not want to, Tai-Ho said. But the council ordered it. They said we needed an option of last resort. Something that could end the war if everything else failed. Do you think we might have to use it? Tai-Ho was quiet for a long moment. I hope not. If we use this weapon, we become no different from them. We become the monsters who burn worlds and kill billions. He looked at Yuna. But I built it anyway. Because if the choice is between using this weapon and letting humanity die forever, I know which one I would choose. Yuna reached out and sealed the door. We will not use it, she said. We did not survive 60,000 years just to become like them. We are better than that. We have to be. Later that night, Yuna addressed the workers of Forge World 7. Thousands of people gathered in the main hall. Engineers and soldiers and pilots and builders. They had spent their lives preparing for a war they never knew would come. I know what we are asking of you, Yuna said. We are asking you to fight an empire that controls half the galaxy. We are asking you to face enemies who outnumber us 1,000,000 to 1. We are asking you to risk everything for a world none of us have ever seen. She paused and looked at the faces before her. But Earth is not just a world. It is who we are. It is the blood in our veins and the memories in our minds. For 60,000 years, we have carried Earth with us, waiting for the day when we could answer what the Velker did. Her voice grew stronger. That day has come. In 6 months, the first fleet will launch. We will strike at the heart of the Dominion. We will show them that humanity did not die when Earth burned. We survived. We grew strong. And now, we are coming for them. The crowd erupted in cheers. The sound echoed through the halls, a roar of voices that had been silent for 60,000 years. Tai-Ho watched from the back of the room. Beside him, Hannah was crying. Not from sadness, but from something else. Relief, maybe. Or hope. Do you think we can win? Tai-Ho asked her. Hannah wiped her eyes. I do not know, she said. But I know we have to try. We owe it to everyone who died. We owe it to everyone who survived. We owe it to Earth. Taiho nodded. He looked at the ships being built in the yards below. Instruments of death. Instruments of justice. Maybe they were the same thing. The war was coming, and humanity was ready. Commander Doan stood on the bridge of the Remembrance and stared into the empty void. Around him, 200 warships floated in perfect silence. Their engines were cold. Their lights were dark. To any sensor in the galaxy, this patch of space was completely empty. But the ships were there, hidden behind quantum shields that bent light, and energy around them like water around a stone. Waiting. Doan was 45 years old. He had spent his entire life training for war, but he had never fought in one. No human had. For 60,000 years, there had been no battles, no enemies, no conflicts. Only hiding and waiting and preparing. The waiting was over. Status report, Doan said quietly. JUNHO, the young communications officer, checked his console. He was only 23, fresh from the academy, and his hands were shaking slightly. All ships in position, Commander. The Velker base has no idea we are here. Doan nodded. Below them, the planet Krath Prime turned slowly in the darkness. It was a military world, covered in weapons factories and training facilities and defense stations. 50,000 Velker soldiers lived there. 200 warships orbited above it. In less than an hour, all of it would be gone. Begin Phase 1, Doan ordered. Across the fleet, small pods launched into space. They were no bigger than a person's fist, impossible to detect, designed to slip through any defense. They drifted toward the Velker ships like dust on the wind. JUNHO watched his screen. Pods reaching target in 3 minutes.
Oh.
Doan felt his heart beating faster. This was it. The first strike in humanity's war against the Dominion. Whatever happened next would change the galaxy forever. 2 minutes. The bridge was silent. Every officer stared at their screens, barely breathing. 1 minute. Doan thought about Earth. He had never seen it, of course. No living human had. But he had seen the images, the videos, the records. Blue oceans and green forests and cities full of light. All of it burned to ash in a single day. All of it gone. Pods reaching target. The silence is deploying. On the screens, the Velker ships began to change. Their lights flickered. Their movements became erratic. One by one, they stopped responding to commands and began to drift. The silence was working. The virus was spreading through the biological ships, severing the neural links between the vessels and their pilots. In moments, the entire Velker fleet was helpless. Phase 2, Dane said. All ships. Drop shields. Begin attack. The quantum shields fell away. 200 human warships appeared from nothing, surrounding the Velker fleet like wolves around wounded prey, and then the guns began to fire. JUNHO had never seen anything like it. The human ships used railguns, electromagnetic weapons that fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The galaxy had abandoned such weapons thousands of years ago as primitive and outdated, but that was exactly why humanity had chosen them. Every Velker shield was designed to stop energy weapons. Lasers, plasma, particle beams. Nothing in their technology could stop a piece of metal moving at a fraction of the speed of light. The Velker ships exploded one after another. Fire bloomed in the darkness, silent and terrible. Ships that had ruled this sector for 10,000 years were torn apart in seconds. They're trying to send a distress signal, Junho reported. Their communications are failing. The silence affected their relay systems too. Good, Dohan said. I want no warnings to reach the Dominion. Not yet. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 40 minutes. When it was over, every Velker ship was destroyed or disabled. The defense stations on the planet below were smoking ruins. 50,000 soldiers had surrendered without firing a shot. Doan stood at the center of the bridge, looking at the destruction his fleet had caused. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, only a heavy weight in his chest. He was a warrior poet. In his quarters, he kept journals filled with verses he had written about war and death and memory. He wrote to remember the cost of what they were doing, to never forget that every life taken was a life, even if it belonged to an enemy, Commander Junho said. What do we do now? Doan turned to face him. The young man was pale, his eyes wide. First combat was always hard. Now we send a message, Doan said. Open a channel to the Dominion capital. Maximum broadcast range. I want every species in the galaxy to see this. Junho's fingers moved across his console. Channel open, Commander. Doan straightened his uniform and faced the camera. Behind him, through the view screen, the wreckage of the Velker fleet drifted in the void. This message is for the Velker Dominion, he said. His voice was calm and steady. 60,000 years ago, you burned a world called Earth. You killed 8 billion people. You tried to erase a species called humanity from existence. He paused. You failed. The screen behind him changed. It showed an image that every human knew by heart. Earth, seen from space, beautiful and blue and alive. Then the image changed, showing the same planet burning, its oceans boiling, its surface turning to glass. We remember what you did, Doan continued. We have remembered for 60,000 years. We hid in the darkness, watching you build your empire on the ashes of our world. We waited, and we prepared, and we grew strong. His eyes hardened. Now we are coming for you. Not to destroy you. Not to burn your worlds as you burned ours. We are better than that. We are coming to show you that the species you tried to kill is still here. We are coming to remind you that actions have consequences. Even after 60,000 years, he took a breath. This is Commander Doan of the human fleet. We are the children of Earth. We are the survivors, and we will never forget. The transmission ended. Junho stared at his commander with something like awe. Sir, he said quietly, what do you think they will do? Doan looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velker High Command was receiving his message. They were learning that the species they thought they had destroyed was still alive. And they were afraid. They will come for us, Doan said. They will send everything they have. They will try to finish what they started 60,000 years ago. And what will we do? Doan smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was steel behind it. We will be waiting. Just like we have always been waiting. And when they come, we will show them what humanity can do. Far away on the world of New Dawn, Elder Jisoo watched the broadcast with tears streaming down his face. Beside him, Admiral Yuna stood in silence, her hands clasped behind her back. It has begun, Jisoo whispered. After all these years, it has finally begun. Yuna nodded. Yes, and now we finish it. She turned to her officers. Send word to all colonies. The war has started. Every ship, every soldier, every resource we have. It is time to end 60,000 years of hiding. The officers moved to obey, and across the galaxy, humanity began to rise. Ambassador Minji was small. She stood barely 5 feet tall, with short black hair and eyes that seemed too old for her young face. On the fortress world of the Torak, she looked like a child standing among giants. The Torak were massive creatures, 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like gray stone. They had been the greatest warriors in the galaxy once, feared by every species that knew their name. Then the Velker came. The Torak fought for 300 years, but in the end, they lost. Their pride was broken. Their honor was taken. For 10,000 years they had served the Dominion as soldiers, dying in wars that were not their own. Now Mingi stood before their clan leaders, and she was not afraid. You were warriors once, she said. Her voice echoed in the great stone hall. Before the Velker broke you, before they made you into their slaves, you had honor. You had pride. You had a purpose. The largest Torak leaned forward. His name was Garrick, and he was the eldest of the clan chiefs. His face was covered in scars from battles fought long ago. And what would you know about honor, little human? He growled. Your species was destroyed before the Torak even knew you existed. Minji reached into her coat and pulled out a small object. It was a book. Not a digital file, not a hologram, but an actual book made of paper. The pages were yellow with age, held together by careful preservation. "This book is 60,000 years old," Minji said. "It has been passed down in my family since the day Earth burned. Every generation has protected it. Every generation has added to it." She opened the book carefully. "Do you know what it contains?" Garak said nothing. "Pictures," Minji said. "Pictures of a city called Seoul. Pictures of my ancestors. Their homes. Their families. Their lives." She held up a photograph so faded it was almost impossible to see. "This is my grandmother's grandmother, 150 generations ago. She was 19 years old when this picture was taken. 3 days later, the Velker burned her world." She closed the book. "You ask what I know about honor? I know that my family kept this book alive for 60,000 years. I know that every human alive carries the memory of Earth in their heart. I know that we hid in the darkness, preparing, waiting, because we knew that someday we would have the chance to answer what was done to us." Her eyes met Garak's. "That is honor. That is what you have forgotten." The hall was silent. The Torak clan chiefs looked at each other, something stirring in their ancient eyes. "The Dominion is weakening," Minji continued. "The humans have struck at their fleet. We have destroyed their bases. We have shown the galaxy that the Velker can be hurt." She stepped forward. "We are not asking you to fight for us. We are asking you to fight for yourselves. To remember what you were before the Velker took it from you." Garak stood slowly. He towered over Minji, his shadow falling across her like a mountain. "And if we refuse," he asked. "Then you remain slaves," Minji said simply. "And when your children ask you why, you can tell them that you were too afraid to try." The silence stretched for a long moment. Then Garak did something that shocked everyone in the hall. He laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the stone walls. "You have fire in you, little human," he said. "Your ancestors would be proud." He turned to the other clan chiefs. "What say you? Do we remember what we were? Or do we die as slaves?" One by one, the Torak rose to their feet. Their voices joined in a roar that echoed across the planet. For the first time in 10,000 years, the warrior clans of Torak were going to war. The alliance spread like fire across the galaxy. The Keth Collective, freed from Dominion control by human signal disruptors, offered their vast network of spies and informants. The small species called the Miru, who had been servants for 50,000 years, began sabotaging Dominion factories from within. Even some Velker defected, younger generations who had never known the old wars and could not understand why their ancestors had burned a world of innocent beings. 6 months into the war, Admiral Yuna stood in the command center of New Dawn, studying a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Dominion territory. Blue dots marked Allied forces. 6 months ago, there had been almost no blue. Now it was spreading, but the red was still so much larger. "They are gathering their fleet at the Kepler Passage," Hannah reported. She stood beside Yuna, her face tense. 50,000 ships. It is the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. "The Kepler Passage is the only route to our hidden territories," Yuna said. "If they break through, they will find our home worlds. Can we stop them?" Yuna studied the map. Humanity had grown strong, but they were still small. Their fleet numbered only 10,000 ships. Even with their allies, they were outnumbered 5-1. "We have to," she said. "If we lose this battle, we lose everything." In the engineering bay, Taiho was working on something new. His hands moved across the console, adjusting calculations, running simulations. Beside him, the Fold space bomb sat in its containment field. Pulsing with terrible energy, Hannah found him there late at night. "You were thinking about using it," she said. Taiho did not look up. One bomb could destroy their entire fleet, end the war in a single moment. No, and kill billions of beings. Innocent people who have nothing to do with the war. Innocent? Taiho's voice was sharp. The Velker killed 8 billion humans. They have enslaved half the galaxy. Where were the innocent people then? Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she sat down beside him. "I found something in the intelligence files," she said. a Velker defector named Bora. She gave us information about the fleet gathering at Kepler Passage. She risked her life to help us. One person, Taiho said. One person does not change what her species did. Maybe not, Hannah said. But it proves that they can change, that they are not all monsters. If we use that bomb, we become what they were. We become the species that kills billions because it is easier than finding another way. Is that what you want? Taiho closed his eyes. The weight on his chest was heavier than ever. He said finally. That is not what I want. He locked the bomb's containment field and turned away from it. We will find another way, he said. We have to. Out. 3 days later, Admiral Yuna addressed the combined fleet. 10,000 human ships. 5,000 Torak warships. 3,000 vessels from allied species. All of them gathered for the greatest battle in the history of the galaxy. I will not lie to you, Yuna said. Her voice carried across every ship, every world, every soldier waiting for the fight. The enemy outnumbers us. They have more ships, more weapons, more resources. On paper, we should lose. She paused. But we have something they do not have. We have 60,000 years of memory. We have generations of ancestors who survived the impossible so that we could stand here today. We have the fire of Earth burning in our hearts. Her voice grew stronger. We did not come this far to lose. We did not hide in the darkness for 60,000 years just to fail now. We are humanity. We are the survivors. And today, we will show the galaxy what that means. The fleet began to move. Thousands of ships, flying toward a battle that would decide the fate of everything. Behind them, the stars watched in silence. The sky burned with fire. Admiral Yuna stood in the command center of New Dawn. Watching the battle unfold on the holographic display, the Kepler Passage was filled with ships. Thousands of them, human and Velker and Torak and Keth, all fighting in the largest space battle the galaxy had ever seen. Beside her stood Elder Jisoo. He was weak now, too weak to stand without help, but he had refused to stay behind. I will not live to see our victory, he had said. But I will die watching us fight for it. Status report, Yuna ordered. We are holding, Hannah said. Her voice was tense, her fingers flying across her console. But barely. They outnumber us 3-1, even with the defections. If something does not change, we will be overwhelmed within hours. Yuna studied the map. The human fleet was fighting brilliantly. The silence had disabled hundreds of Velker ships. The Torak were cutting through enemy formations like blades through paper. But it was in. Odd enough, there were simply too many enemies, Admiral. Taiho's voice came through the communicator. I can end this. One bomb. It would destroy their entire command fleet. Yuna closed her eyes. The temptation was almost overwhelming. One decision, and the war would be over. Humanity would be safe. But at what cost? No, she said. We are not them. We will not become planet killers. Then what do we do? Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then an idea began to form in her mind. It was desperate. It was dangerous. But it might work, Anna, she said. Where is the Velker command ship? Hannah checked her screen. Center of their formation, heavily protected. Why? Because we are not going to win this battle by destroying ships, Yuna said. We are going to win it by destroying their lies. She turned to face her officers. The Velker rule this galaxy through fear and propaganda. They have convinced 100 species that they are gods, that they are invincible, that resistance is pointless. But they are not gods. They are just beings who committed a great crime 60,000 years ago and have been hiding from it ever. Since, she pointed to the command ship on the display. Every record of what happened to Earth is in the Dominion archives. Every order to burn our world. Every decision to try to erase our species. If we can reach those archives and broadcast them to the galaxy, everyone will see what the Velker really are. Their empire will collapse from within. That is suicide, Taiho said. The command ship is surrounded by thousands of vessels. Then we need volunteers, Yuna said. A small team, fast ships. They slipped through the battle, board the command ship, and broadcast the truth. Commander Doan's voice came through the communicator. I will go. Doan. No, Una said. I need you commanding the fleet. The fleet does not need me anymore, Doan said. His voice was calm, accepting. They know what to do. But this mission needs someone who understands what we are fighting for. Someone who can find the right words when the galaxy is watching. There was silence on the channel. Everyone knew what Doan was saying. This was a one-way trip. Let me go with him, Hannah said. I know the Dominion systems. I can find the archives, and I can keep the ship running, Taiho added. Someone needs to make sure they actually get there. Una felt tears forming in her eyes. These were her people, her friends, and they were volunteering to die so that humanity could live. Are you sure? She asked. We have been sure for 60,000 years, Doan said. This is what we were born for. The mission launched 30 minutes later. A single fast ship, slipping through the chaos of battle, carrying 4 people toward the heart of the enemy fleet. Commander Doan, Hannah, Taiho, and a young pilot named Sora, who had never flown in combat before, but had the fastest reflexes in the fleet. They made it through the first defensive line. Then the second. Sora flew, like she was born in the cockpit, dodging fire, weaving between ships, finding paths that should not have existed. We are approaching the command ship, she reported. 30 seconds to docking? Hannah, are you ready? Doan asked. Hannah said. Her voice was steady. Her hands were not. They docked with a grinding crash. The airlock opened, and they ran. The inside of the Velker command ship was like a living thing.
Oh.
Walls that pulsed with biological energy, corridors that twisted like veins. They fought their way through guards, Taiho's weapons cutting down anything that moved. Until they reached the archive chamber. I need 5 minutes, Hannah said. She plugged into the system and began to work. You have 3, Doan said. More guards were coming. He could hear them. Taiho took position at the door. I can hold them.
Not alone,
Doan said. He stood beside him. The guards came. Dozens of them. Taiho and Doan fought side by side to humans against an army, buying time with their lives. Got it, Hannah shouted. Broadcasting now. Across the galaxy, screens flickered. On every world, every ship, every station, the same images appeared. The original orders to destroy Earth. The recordings of Velker commanders laughing as they burned cities. The deliberate decision to commit genocide. Against a species that had done nothing wrong, the effect was immediate. Dominion ships stopped fighting. Species that had served the Velker for millennia saw the truth of what their masters had done. Rebellion sparked across 100 worlds in a matter of minutes. But in the archive chamber, the guards were closing in. Taiho fell first, a blast catching him in the chest. He died with his weapons still firing. Doan held the corridor alone. He was wounded, bleeding, barely able to stand. But he did not stop. Go, he told Hannah and Sora. Get back to the ship. Tell them what we did. We are not leaving you, Hannah said. You have to, Doan said. He smiled, and for a moment, he looked peaceful. Tell them we were here. Tell them we mattered. He charged into the guards, his weapon blazing. Giving Hannah and Sora the time they needed to escape, Commander Doan died on the floor of the Velker command ship. Surrounded by enemies, with a smile on his face, his last words transmitted to all human forces. For Earth, for all of us, forever. The battle ended an hour later. The Velker fleet surrendered. The Dominion collapsed. 3 months after that, Admiral Una stood on the surface of the Velker homeworld, not as a conqueror, not as a destroyer, but as a judge. The Velker Council stood before her, ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for 100,000 years. They expected death. They expected vengeance. They expected to be treated the way they had treated others. Una gave them something else. She tried to erase us, she said. You burned our world. You killed our people. For 60,000 years, we could have done the same to you. We had the weapons. We had the hatred. We had every right. She paused. But we are not you. We will not commit genocide, even against those who would commit it against us. Instead, you will live. You will remember what you did. And you will spend the rest of your existence knowing that the species you tried to destroy showed you mercy. The Velker Council could not speak. They had no words for what they were feeling. Shame, perhaps. Or something they had never experienced before. Grace. 1 year later. Minji walked through the construction site of New Earth. The planet was being terraformed to match. Humanity's lost homeworld? Trees from genetic samples 60,000 years old would soon grow here. Oceans would fill ancient basins. In the capital city, named Seoul in honor of her ancestors, a memorial was being built. Not to vengeance, not to war, but to survival, to hope. To the generations who refused to let humanity die, Elder Jisoo did not live to see this day, but his final words played at the memorial's dedication. "He thought they killed us," his voice said, echoing across the crowd. "They were wrong. Humanity does not die. We adapt, we endure, we remember, and when the time comes, we rise." Admiral Yuna, now president of the Human Coalition, looked up at the sky. Once, those stars had meant exile and hiding. Now, they meant possibility. Beside her stood Hannah, the last survivor of the command ship mission. She held her ancient book in her hands, the photographs of old Seoul pressed against her heart. "We are home," Yuna said softly. "After 60,000 years, we are finally home." The sun set over New Earth, painting the sky in colors that humans had not seen for 600 centuries. And somewhere in the light of that dying sun, the ghosts of 8 billion people finally rested. Humanity had returned. And this time, they were here to stay.